and welcome back to the Comic Lounge, and welcome to the last Christmas-themed episode for this channel, at least of 2025. So, since this is probably coming out at least on a Monday, I was thinking about putting this on a Christmas day, but who knows? I may decide not to because I might end up being busy anyways throughout most of this week anyways. Still though, at least I'll get this out, and this is going to be a very interesting one because again, I got two more comics and they are the last two that I'm going to show for this week. And so as you pretty much got from the first entry in this, the first episode was me talking about Daredevil 241, and of course Deathstroke the Terminator City of Assassins, which was a 4-part storyline that took place during at least around Christmas time to, of course, again, for the most part, December. And of course, the previous episode, the second entry in this triple header, whatever, was me talking about the Judge Dredd, sort of like, it was number 6, but it was basically a compilation of Christmas stories, and of course Spawn number 39, which was the lone Christmas themed issue. Now, I got two more for you, and it's going to be a bloody one. And it's definitely two characters that are still fairly popular, and one who's already getting even more popular thanks to the recent DC movies, or at least a DC Universe, whatever, from James Gunn. That should give you a good hint. So let's get to the first one, though. And it's a character that here and there is, since, of course, early this year with Daredevil Born Again, is pretty much now a part of the MCU, and that's obviously one of the most violent comic book characters ever created, at least one of the first original violent characters be created, and that's, of course, none other than the Punisher with the Holiday Special number 1. This is the first Holiday Special, and this, of course, compiled at least 2 stories. One written by Stephen Grant, and I didn't really quite get the other writer, but it's not really one that is very recognizable, but I might put the name somewhere on the bottom anyways. But still, this is the first main story is written by Stephen Grant, who, of course, if you can see behind you, is definitely responsible for the sequel to his original Circle of Blood, which was the whole Punisher Limited series, and that's, again, Return to Big Nothing, which was a graphic novel that brought back the team of, again, the art team, at least, of Mike Zeck and John Beatty. And Stephen Grant would still do some stories here and there throughout, at least the Punisher. Even if he took a break for a period to kind of go to DC and write a couple fill-in issues for Deathstroke. Still, this one right here is during that period anyways. And it is the Punisher Holiday Special. And just like with Stephen Grant's writing, sometimes he takes inspiration from certain media. Return to Big Nothing, as it's been pointed out, seems to have been inspired by maybe 1 or 2 Miami Vice episodes. This one is inspired by, well, a fairly, I guess at the time it was maybe a big action movie. I don't know. It starred some guy named Bruce Willis. What was the name? Was something Die Hard, whatever. Still, it takes inspiration from this particular movie, but instead of being in a big tall building like the Nakatomi building, was it like, I think it was titled the Nakatomi building. Again, seen it as many times. Still, instead, this is inside a shopping mall. And it's basically being ran by a guy named, Rudy Kessler, who is, of course, involved with a mob outfit from, I think, Tony Caruso. And obviously, Punisher has been eyeing these two people, and so since he's being lured into this whole situation, he's not without his diversions, and so throughout the entire story, he's pretty much locked inside this shopping mall, and it is basically nothing but survival. But it's almost at times kind of maybe a slight paint-by-numbers Punisher story, because of Punisher, of course, he pretty much is going to win by the end of it. Kind of like almost similar to what they were doing with eventually they would take ideas for, I don't know, the one with Thomas Jane. But but the interesting part about this story is that there's a teenage girl who is who had, let's say, escaped home, and she somehow is living within the mall. And she gets caught up in this sort of chaos and the gunfire, whatever, between Punisher and Kessler's sort of guards and everything that are just running rampant. And so, and he, of course, she is like a thief. She's been living there, stealing things from there. And Punisher, of course, he makes his little comment saying that I really don't want to be killing you or whatever. But then, of course, she starts going on that the reason why she left home is because this deals to a bit of, I guess you say, domestic abuse. So there's at least a bit of a father abuse sort of storyline, at least a little subplot. And so Punisher, throughout the story, is then making sure she's at least safe during the whole chaos. But either way, it's a fairly fun story, and I think it's definitely one to check out for at least this one. As far as the second story, the last one that kind of closes, which is more of a short story, just to kind of give you the bullet points. It deals with Punisher following a group of mob hitmen who are hired to go after a family man who at least witnessed this sort of crime boss's son killing an FBI agent, and so the father and the family are put in witness protection, but Punisher's obviously been on their track, and he knows that what they're going to do, and so he's doing everything he can to stop from a family getting killed. So that's very much on the nose there with Punisher, but still at the very end, there's the kid, of course, who, there's a little sort of plot, whatever, in the during the story where the kid wants the dog inside that they own, whatever, and so this kind of creates more plot devices, I guess you can say, for the story, and so the kid goes out, one of the last hitmen that obviously is trying to escape Punisher's grasp. He's obviously looking at the kid, and he's about ready to shoot, and Punisher at least saves the kid, but since there's a dog involved, the dog does get wounded, but not killed. Thankfully, not killed. But Punisher, of course, subdues and gets the guy, whatever. And then, of course, there's this little moment between Frank Castle and pretty much this witness protection father or whatever's son, where they're having this little moment together, and he's, of course, is telling the kid that the dog's going to be fine, but was it the kid that asked to try and see if he can keep him around, whatever, but again, Frank Castle, obviously being a former father, obviously has pretty much does his best to not tell who he truly is, but he does say that I got other clients I got to do it. So he does. There's a bit of a touching moment, but there is that one more where the kid asks, "Do you have a family?" Whatever. They think it would be happy to have you around, I guess, for Christmas, but he, of course, has to break it to him that his family's dead. So there's a bit of that. It's a bit of almost a very sad ending to a fairly, again, kind of can be considered a bit of a touching Punisher story. But again, it's like the backup story to this fairly. It's a fun issue, and I think it's worth checking out. There's a couple more holiday specials. I actually took the shot where Frank Castle's dressed up as Santa. He's kind of like impaling someone in the was it with some sort of stick or whatever, and that's like, what is it, you see at the beginning of my intro. That's actually taken from the second holiday special for the Punisher. And also, speaking of impaling, I should also mention there's a scene in the main one where Frank Castle actually takes a reindeer plastic reindeer, by the way, and impales one of the security guards that are hired by Kessler to take out the Punisher inside the mall. So there is some bloody violence, at least for this period inside this comic. It's a crazy. It's still worth notable, and it shouldn't cost you too much if you were to find. So, if you're a big Punisher fan and or at least someone who's getting into the Punisher, check this one out. It's still pretty fun. Now, speaking of violence, and probably the one that I'm gonna have a little bit of tough time when it comes to showing you pictures from, or at least shots from the comic pages, because this one's pretty much, it's like, I can probably get away, since I probably you would have noticed there are some panels, whatever, from the Punisher Holiday Special. Number one, you probably would have seen them anyways, because again, I can get away with showing you some of that, because it's not super gruesome, and it's not super kind of offensive. The next one is going to be the one that pushes up the ante to being very offensive, and it's obviously a character who's now going to become a very popular character. No thanks to, of course, Supergirl and of course, whatever comes out from James Gunn's DCU. He is now finally being played by Jason Momoa. I'm talking about the Lobo Paramilitary Christmas Special. And from this little description box, it pretty much aptly states, warning, contains bad taste in the form of ultra-violence, icon bashing, and the finger, more offensive than Christmas usually is. Again, if that's not enough description for you for why I probably shouldn't be showing you most pages from this book because of YouTube's censorship and whatever, then I don't think that I don't know what else I can do to probably tell you that this comic, and I'm very brand new to this one, and this really kind of, I mean, I've been a fan of Lobo, but I've always been more familiar with his stuff in the animated series, whatever, but I've had some of the comics, I just never got around to reading them, but because I didn't know what am I going to think much about it, even though, again, it's all written by Keith Giffen and Alan Grant. And since I've been talking about Judge Dredd, which some of that stuff was written by Alan Grant and John Wagner, and I've been showing some stuff recently from Keith Giffen. And of course, here we have his artwork from Simon Bisley. I think it's Bisley or Bisley. But I finally got around to reading this one, and this ticker right here, this whole description box, I think it's being at least as cordial as possible with what you actually get in here, because of the stuff inside this, the content in this book. Not only is it way more brutal and way more descriptive with the violence than compared to the Punisher Holiday Special, but it's also a lot dark. The dark humor in this one isn't even enough to even call it dark humor. So, to put it aptly, to give you a very short bullet point, the story opens up with this very depressed couple. They're having a tough time. I think the father gets let go from a job, and the mother or the wife. They got 2 kids, by the way, but they're contemplating what they're going to do with the kids. And they don't know what to do. The father, to be as descriptive as possible, starts to go towards his, let's just put it this way, his weapons cabinet. I don't know, that might still be a little more descriptive. But yet they get a knock on the door, and there's this book laying on the floor, and it's pretty much, there's a little page where it tells you exactly what's then going to be the whole story, and it's like written by, again, it's like fourth wall breaking is what you end up getting. It's like written from Keith Giffen and whatever, and telling that it's going to be a Christmas story, and it might tell the two parent, the couple, whatever, the family couple, something, how they're going to deal with their troubles. And so that's when we get to the actual story where Lobo, he's at the bar, but he gets told he's supposed to meet this certain boss, whatever. Turns out it's a bunny. He meets a bunny, and the bunny's going to give him a contract to go after freaking Santa Claus. And that's where the comic, this to me, the stuff with the parents is going to, or the family couple, whatever, is going to be the really offensive. The very most offensive thing you'll probably actually, and it might be the most offensive thing I'm actually showing so far, but again, it's his Lobo. It's meant to be very dark satire, and so it's going to live up to its name. And still, the stuff with Lobo, he takes it, he goes over to the North Pole, and of course, this is the first appearance of his dog, which is Bull Pug, whatever, and so, which of course, I don't know if it's going to be in the DCU. I'm not sure. I've never seen any footage, whatever, of the Lobo's dog in like the trailer footage for the Supergirl movie. But again, you do see Lobo, so maybe it might be very vague that there is going to be at least his dog. So this will be the first appearance of his dog. Either way, to continue forward, he goes over to there, and as you can see, you got the elves. They're all like talking, but they're also very good, very on alert. And so eventually, they see that there's an intruder, and Lobo comes in, and you can see they all point their guns right at him. And this is probably the stuff I can at least show you from the comic, and it is absolutely hilarious. It's ridiculous. And finally, we get this shootout, whatever, between the elves and Lobo, and then the dog, whatever. And he starts singing, "Santa's watching you," whatever is it, and Santa's to town, whatever, like that. I think it is that Santa's coming to town or whatever. And freaking Lobo's just seeing it, but he's putting himself, he's changing it from there. And eventually, he does find Santa, and then we get a big fight between him and Santa Claus, and then he cuts his head off. Finally, that ends up being the end of the story, and of course, what is it? Actually, they even go further. He takes the reindeer, he gets the packages, whatever, he starts dropping bombs, whatever, on cities or whatever. It's like he's practically mass murdering a whole bunch of people on Christmas. And so finally, the end, they seem to like what was in the store, what was in there, but it's like they felt like they got joy out of it. And like maybe this is going to give us hope or whatever. And then finally, they try to go back to the book because they stopped reading it for a bit. But then they did. All of a sudden, they're now treated with the message, this only was supposed to be read one time. And poof, it disappears. Like it self-destructs. And so now they go back to the original plan, and it ends with the most almost very horrific, but it's done in a very meant to be kind of very, very dark humor. It's got a lot of British dark humor, by the way. It's very much. And I think it's like, for those, it may not be as tasteful. But then, of course, you get the last page where, as the father, whoever's going up, going to do the most heinous freaking thing you can think of, because, of course, we're in 2025. It is probably not something that would be accepted, but you have Lobo giving the finger. So there's at least one thing that actually does also what gets mentioned is in there. This is exactly why this never got a newsstand edition, because of, I don't think the Comics Code Authority, even during the big, when it was kind of starting to phase out, would have accepted half of the stuff in this book. They wouldn't have. But again, it's all meant to be very satire, and it's meant to basically over-dramatic and completely make fun of all the other anti-heroes, whatever. But even in some cases, this is probably like the biggest middle finger to the idea of an anti-hero, because still, Lobo at times just comes across as a straight-up villain, and even in this story, Anna, it does not, but it's such a ridiculous, at times very bonkers, but yet somehow offensive story. It is not for the faint of heart, and so I'm just recommending this because of, again, Lobo is starting to become a very popular character. But if you're becoming a beginning fan and there's things that you're kind of at least sensitive to, this is probably the book that might end up not making you a fan of the character at all. And so just warning you there. So there you have it. It's probably the longest one of all the episodes, but you know what? It's the final one, and I wanted to go all out. 2 absolutely pretty cool or just crazy Christmas comic book stories. And so, yes, it means we're almost on the violent side, but you know what? With this channel, you're going to get some of that. So there you have it. If you have any thoughts on the 2 stories that I have shown, like you have read them, you can all leave them down in the comment section below. But there's still some of the stories that you still are kind of want to recommend me. Again, leave those in the comment section below. So, if you like what you see at this channel and you like the stuff that I show you, or just find it cool what's in the stories and whatever that I do show on this channel that I like to discuss about, not only will it do me great, but it'll do you great, because once you hit that subscribe button, you will not miss out on any more new content. So with that, I hope all of you enjoy. I hope all of you have a great Christmas Eve and Christmas. And if I don't see you by at least the week of New Year's, then I hope you all have a great New Year's. And I hope, I'm definitely looking forward to New Year's. So until then, this is Thrashhead at the Comic Lounge saying I'll be back. I'll see you again real soon here. Take care, everybody.